Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin McNeil from Metric Marketing. Wanted to thank Grant, wanted to thank the Case Group for making me part of this long-term disruption series. I'm going to throw kind of a lot at you in about 30 minutes here. Stick with me. I'm hoping to give you some things to focus on in regards to change and what we've learned from the pandemic, what we're still learning from this crazy year that we're in right now, and what type of short-term and long-term change we should be trying to make from this learning experience together. Everything I reference today is going to be from some sort of reference point. We're going to start today with some Insightrix research. Insightrix is a terrific market research company that we've known for years, who just concluded a consumer study in Western Canada that I think is really relevant to this conversation. We're going to talk about issues and opportunities that we've found working right in the analytics accounts of Case schools and some private schools in the United States as well. We're going to talk about conversations that many of you who are watching this today probably aren't having right now. And by 2021, 2022, we want to be having those conversations. I'm going to give you some key metrics to track over the next 6 to 36 months, short-term and long-term. And then I want to finish today by talking about bringing departments together. I think it's a really important topic. I think if we're talking about change in our organizations, it's one of the things that across North America, I've just really learned the importance of, and I want to make a few points on, okay? Starting with some more qualitative data here, Insightrix produced this report very recently. This is very recent data. And I wanted to start here because I think these are some things that we all kind of know anecdotally, but I want to start today by putting ourselves in the shoes of our consumers, of our prospective families, okay, who we market to, the people we market to, the people we advertise to. Let's start by putting ourselves in their shoes and listening to them about what they've experienced and are going to continue to experience because of this crazy year, 2020. Just over half of Western Canadians, over half, who either filled in a survey, Insightrix does a lot of phone interview surveys as well for this type of thing, just over half, what they're saying here, expect for the changes that have come as part of 2020 are going to carry over. They're going to keep working from home more often. They're going to stay home more often. They're going to have reduced participation in outdoor activities. The change that we've seen made across Canada, I think we can take Western Canada and kind of extrapolate it, is that we're kind of training the consumer to stay home and go a little bit more digital. 32 to 48-year-olds, these are our parents. This is a buyer legend that we identify all the time when doing advertising work with private schools. As the 14 to 17-year-olds, those are those migrating high school students that we're advertising to quite a bit. The people we're advertising to are saying they're spending more time on their phones. We know this, right? But let's listen to the consumer. Watching more streaming services, watching YouTube. Google just put out a great piece, it's kind of a side to this, about how many more people in that older age group, that 32 to 42 age group, get captured in it, are now watching YouTube on their TVs. The rise of smart TVs, you can pick what you want on YouTube. YouTube's just not for kids anymore. And listening to streaming services. If we're listening to the consumer here, okay, they're digital. That's where they're spending their lives now. Look at this list and think about where we should be spending our advertising dollars. If we're talking about a change in these first two slides that we can make learning from 2020, I'd say that I'm still in too many boardrooms, virtual boardrooms these days. Having somebody defend the legacy media buy, the legacy, usually traditional spend that we've become accustomed to using. This is a reminder that it's digital first. The legacy spend, and I get it, if you have somebody on the board who owns the paper and you buy an ad in the paper because of that, totally understand it. But when we're talking about return on investment in advertising, we're talking about return on ad spend. It is digital first. Does traditional have a role? Yes. But we need to stop defending those legacy spends and actually really start challenging them if they're holding us back from doing the things we know we need to do in digital. If they're holding us back from being where our consumers are, telling us where our target audience is spending their time, that's where we need to be. Can't just spend because we've spent that way for 10 and 20 years, right? I thought this one was a really important piece from the Insightrix survey as well. There's one thing that all of these apps have in common. We're training the consumer about what to expect using video. Our prospects, our prospective families are now have an expectation of what their living room looks like or their 7-month year old daughter's room looks like on video. They've been in their friends, they've been in their families' living rooms using video conferencing like this. We're doing virtual tours, we're doing virtual admissions meetings. This is a reminder that expectations are being set, and therefore it's not just about doing video. This is now how we're going to show our brand. This is how we're going to show that brand consistency, that high-end brand positioning. This is a real reminder that what 2020 has done as much as anything else is train a consumer in this type of expectation, much like Amazon and big e-commerce retailers have done, setting an expectations for what an e-commerce experience is like. That's now happening with our virtual tours, with our virtual meetings. We don't have to do it, we have to be great at it. One thing I've always loved about the case group is when we drive marketing qualified leads, when we drive leads to a campus, we know that people are closing at a high rate. They're going to attend that school at a high rate. We've got to make sure that we're protecting that closing rate. We're protecting that brand experience that we've sold with over the years, even though we have to do it differently these days. I should note, by the way, I have not learned yet to not use all the business terminology when talking with schools. People tell me I have to do it. I will learn it one day, but I haven't yet. Getting into Google Trends here, okay? So we heard some qualitative data there. What are the consumers telling us? Now I'm going to go into the quantitative side. This is from Google. We actually presented this back in April, right at the start of the pandemic, as part of a webinar. And I'll share it as one of my resources. And then I'm going to share a resource that's actually a newly updated set of information from Q3, bleeds into a little bit of Q4. What we learned in April is that demand is up across the board. Okay, we're talking about education specific primary and secondary schooling terms, search terms used to build this information here. Ad impressions up, relevant queries up, increase in overall search was up. Okay, 100% increase in online learning search terms month over month. This is back in Q1 of this year. Not surprising, right? Again, some things that we know, but here's actually the data for it. People are searching for online resources. They're searching for more educational options than they ever have before in Canada. This is all Canadian data. So just to get into some of the specifics here, okay? This is talking about index queries. Okay, so these are those search queries that are going up. Broken down mobile, it's reminding us, is so important, but never underestimate the power of the actual computer screen. Okay, we see a lot of data that suggests people do a lot of their searching, a lot of their querying on mobile, but when they convert, when they actually fill out an application or they fill out a form to attend an open house, virtual open house now, that they do it on the computer. So both really important, but demand is up. This is what this is telling us. So demand is up, but is it the right consumer, right? Is it people just from public school searching for online resources, or are these people who are actually searching for a private school to maybe attend and maybe make part of their family? Well, they're clicking on ads at a higher percentage. And this is, again, Q1. I'm going to give you a little surprise for Q3 here. Google works really, really hard to promote, to produce ads that are what people are looking for in search. Okay, so the fact that we have demand up, queries up, and that people are clicking on ads, it means demand is up, and people are finding, or were finding in Q1, what they were looking for in the ads. Click-through rate is kind of that same type of indicator. Okay, clicks on ads and the percentage of ads that are drawing clicks there, up. It means we're serving good ads to an audience who's querying more and more often. Now let's get into Q3. We said in Q1, we don't expect this to stop. We are setting new benchmarks, not new outliers. We're seeing that across a lot of different industries. It's not different for education, okay? 23% year over year, and this is buying time, right? This is getting into the fall when we know that we're starting really heavy admission cycles. and we're up 23% year over year. Our audience is digital. We need to be digital first. Clicks on ads are up 42% year over year. So people are still clicking the ads. This is Google selling their product a little bit here, but the numbers don't lie. Ad clicks are up 42%. Here's an interesting one. The click-through rate on ads is only up 3%, and it's actually down quarter over quarter growth. You can see there from Q2 to Q3. Demand is up. People are still clicking on ads. So what Google's saying is ads aren't the problem. One of the things you can draw here is that the click-through rate on individual ads is going down. Maybe people are getting not tired, but they're not finding what they're looking for in those first ads all the time. Okay, they're doing more searching, more scrolling. That click-through rate is down. So it is a little bit of a reminder that maybe we're not reacting as the advertising group here, right? We're the people who are probably serving these ads. Our click-through rates are down, and they're definitely not growing at the pace the demand is. And the want to click on ads is the last screen suggested. So this is an important takeaway. I actually thought about starting with this piece of the puzzle because from those last two sections, what we learned was our consumers are telling us they've gone digital. Okay, they're staying home, they've gone digital, and they're going to continue to do so. The analytics are telling us that the demand is up in search, that people are clicking on ads in search. And I know there's a part of the audience who's probably sitting here saying, you know, thankfully we're doing digital advertising. We really have that in order. You don't. Okay. The large majority of real data that I'm seeing, and we have access to about 20 analytics accounts from case schools and private institutions in the United States. I'm telling you, we have a huge problem getting the right data right now in our schools. 20 for 20, when we walked into an analytics account, we're not seeing the right measurables in place. And you can't be good at digital advertising without good measurement. It's step number one. What you see on the screen here is those are conversion goals that are dropping down here. If you're watching this, you have Google Analytics. But what I've seen 20 out of 20 times is we have not gotten to a place where we're customizing the outcomes that Google Analytics has to measure in our Google Analytics accounts. And this isn't a bad thing. Okay, if you're head of school, this isn't your marketing department, your admissions department missing the boat. If you're a marketing person watching this, private industries are largely in the same boat. We've been a little bit of a step behind in the education sector because of our technologies, because of the Blackboards, because of the school admin programs out there. We have a little more technology that we've dealt with that weren't as friendly with Google Analytics in the past. They are getting better, but this is a must. When we talk about change, it's time to start getting the right data in place or we will never be good at digital. So how do we do that? And if you're wondering, maybe I do have this, we're a pretty good advertiser, and I know there's some good advertisers watching this right now, then you have a measurement plan. If you don't have a measurement plan, you have not customized Google Analytics to the objectives that are actually going to move your school forward. Measurement planning is really a collaborative exercise. Okay? The objectives should be signed off on from the head of school, from a board chair, from marketing and admissions, certainly. We should all be getting on the same page, making sure that we're not missing any objectives, and really making sure that when we set trackable goals in analytics, they're related back to the things that matter. This is how we customize Google Analytics to start measuring things that we actually care about. The difference that we're making here, a big sports analogy guy, too many of us are trying to be good at digital advertising, and we're measuring all these key performance indicators. So we're at a hockey game and we're saying, hey, we really shot the puck, we really skated well tonight, we're a good hockey team. And everybody else who we're competing against, or the good competitors, are measuring the score of the game, and we're not. We need to start measuring the outcomes that are going to move us forward. I'll talk about that a little bit in the next section too. The rest of measurement planning is really about having that documented plan of if this happens, then this will happen. So that if we're not achieving objectives, we can find the gap. We can say, this is something that needs to be tested. These are numbers that need to move for us to achieve our goals. And if we are being successful, we know that it's tied back to a good data-driven approach where we can learn from and optimize from. get the right data. If there's one thing I can implore you, uh, making a change, learning what we've learned from in 2020, it's that we'd like to be here next November 2021 and have the world back to normal, hopefully, of course, but also be able to measure year over year going from there. Can't measure without something to measure against. That's where we get into the key trackable metrics. Total conversions year over year, or campaign versus campaign, is the number one trackable metric that should matter to your school. It should be the one number that the board, the head of school, head of marketing, head of admissions can all look at and say, if that one number is going up, total conversions, we know that we're getting better year over year or campaign over campaign. These are hard analytics like form fills to admissions, phone calls. There is software that we can track phone calls with these days to the admissions department so that we know that we're actually getting into that admissions funnel for marketing. The rest of the key metrics that I'd have you focus on from here on out for the next 2 years to make sure that we're taking this change, making sure that it's being implemented is really about list growth. Okay, cookies are becoming a thing of the past online. And to be good at digital, one of the things that you want to start focusing on is do you have a larger audience to advertise to next year and the year after than you did sitting here today? And that comes from audiences in Google Ads and Facebook, and it comes from a growing email list. So important. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The last point here is about key performance indicators being represented in relation to the associated outcome. If it smells like a key performance indicator and it looks like a key performance indicator, it is one, and it shouldn't be talked about without the thing that it's affecting. Okay, key performance indicator to an outcome. So we've got to get rid of a reporting world where somebody says that our campaign's doing great because I got a lot of impressions, or our website's doing really good because we get a lot of website visits. That stuff is good, but it's only matters as it affects the outcomes that move our school forward, those hard conversion goals. We should be able to get to a cost per acquisition or a return on advertising spend in a way that we can all believe it. Okay, that we don't get questioned when we come back to the board with that return on ad spend, that we know we have the right measurables in place, the right outcomes getting measured to actually create this type of data. Still with me? Conversations we should be having by 2022. I love working with K schools. I love working with schools. What we've done for a few years in our company is try to be educators, use data to make decisions, empower our teams and our schools that we're working with to use data to make decisions. These are some conversations that we come in and we teach about right now that should be fundamental, I think, within the school when we walk in. And number one here is number one with a bullet. This is one of the most important concepts that if you're a marketing person, we should be training up and training down in our organizations. If you're a head of school or if you're a board chair, this is something that you should believe in as well and get to a place where we can make decisions based on the customer journey. Okay? The customer journey is a steadfast rule online that we're not just advertising anymore. Okay, we're either building awareness. It's the first time you've touched my brand, my website, my school online, or on a billboard if you start going back to work. You're going to go through a process where you build familiarity and move towards consideration before you take an action that I want you to take. Attend a virtual open house, attend an admissions meeting, actually apply to the school, right? When we talk about should we do Google Ads? Yes, you probably should. Should we do Facebook advertising? Yes, there's probably a fit for it. Should we do email marketing? Yes, you have to be so good at it. But those things all have to come into context of where they fit in the customer journey. Are we doing Google Ads for awareness? Or are we doing it to build familiarity and consideration? I'm going to share one of my resources here is a Google Insights piece that talks about the messy middle of the customer journey. And what that refers to is a concept that we should be spending more dollars for people who are building familiarity and moving towards consideration. We should spend more dollars here because they're closer to converting than anywhere else in the customer journey. This is a pretty steadfast rule as far as the analytics go, but it's a conversation that we're not going to be able to have, right? Spend more money at that place in the customer journey until we're all using this tool to make decisions. So what does that look like? In marketing, this is what a campaign looks like when it's built with the customer journey in mind. At the awareness stage, I should have an ad planned for the first time you meet and encounter my brand in my school. I should be sending you to the right landing page or the right page on my website to make sure that you're able to get the information you want, the content that you want, and then I'm asking you to do an appropriate thing at that stage of the customer journey. As I start to retarget you, so important online, right? Spend more money in the middle. Now I want to have a more appropriate call to action. I want to change my messaging. I want to give you something new or something that's going to help you continue down that customer journey onto consideration, where I need to make sure I'm asking the right things. I'm not reaching for wallets all the time. First time you meet somebody, asking to apply is a little bit aggressive. Okay? And I want to use landing pages at appropriate places. From a creative standpoint, you can see here that we're just going to ask you to learn more until the time of the year comes to register for an open house. Okay, we're building those lists as we talked about. We're retargeting. We're getting you back to a virtual open house now, until it's time to ask you to actually apply to the school, where you're in deeper stages of the customer journey. Different messaging, different creative at different stages. We're continuing that journey along with our prospective family. Why this is so important, and this should make sense to everyone, deciding where we're going to send our kids to school is a long customer journey. It's a thoughtful, it's a researched buy. And therefore, we have to be that type of advertiser that understands that. Like, start shopping for cars, and I promise they know how to get back to you in the middle of that customer journey. They understand the length of their customer journey. And we have to do a better job as whole organizations, whole schools, making decisions based on this concept. What does planning the customer journey look like for admissions? This is really about email. There's some places for ads, but what we're doing these days is we're driving marketing qualified leads. We're getting that first form fill. We're getting that first email address into our admissions funnel. Admissions teams, one of the changes that we know we're making is we have an easier ask for a conversion for marketing qualified leads. It's a little bit easier to sign up for a virtual tour than it is to come to a campus. We all know this. What this means is for admissions departments, we have to change. We have to get better at our communication within our sales customer journey, our sales funnel, and we have to make sure that we're using automation. That's a must these days, and that we have a plan for the right communication at these different steps. So I know how I'm going to intake email addresses. I know how I'm going to nurture leads as we go through maybe our admissions period during the year. More relevant content, more information, more education to that family who's let you into a very important place these days, the inbox, okay? Current families need different communication, sometimes requiring different technologies most of the time with our schools. When you see a different color here, this is actually a different piece of technology in play. Past admission leads cannot be forgotten about. It's a long customer journey. If I gave you my email address today, my 7-month-old daughter is not ready to apply, but stay in front of me. I'm still trying to make those type of decisions in my life. And when we get into fundraising, whether it's Blackbot or whatever technology is taking over here, we need to have the plan for the right content in that inbox. Really important piece of the puzzle. If we're going to make changes, we got to start having the right conversations in our school. Start talking about the customer journey. Start using it as a tool to make decisions or get somebody to help you to. Attribution modeling is a really important concept that we're teaching and that Google's working hard to teach these days. And what this is about is to get away from the conversation of one channel versus another. We should do Google ads and Google ads are good, or we should do Facebook advertising and Facebook advertising is good. Everything works together. It's actually the same thing with traditional versus digital. It all has its place in the customer journey. The point I made earlier about traditional is more about those legacy spends. Not that you shouldn't do it. You should think about where it fits in the customer journey and then give it credit where credit's due in its role to conversion. I'll use number 8 here as an example. Somebody clicked on a paid search. Okay, they searched for the best private school in Ontario. They clicked on the first ad there, and then they went back to the kitchen. They went back among their lives, and 4 days later, they kept searching for schools. They recognized that website, or it had been highlighted because they'd been on that site before, and they clicked on it on organic search. Closed their browser, went to work actually, remembered the school name, typed it in, and filled out an application form. In this scenario, what did its job? Paid search, organic search, or the direct channel? The answer is all three, right? They had a different role to play in the customer journey. They all attributed to this conversion. This is an important concept because too many schools are still starting and then turning off digital advertising channels or tactics. Experiments are allowed to fail. It's fine to turn something off, but too many are getting turned off for the wrong reason because we don't understand what the channel or what the tactics role was on our way to converting our target audience. Two really important analytic pieces, planning pieces there, let you make decisions early on in planning, marketing, and advertising, and post or during marketing and advertising campaigns. The third one is a conversation that we need to start having, and I know most of you are. And this is just a reminder, one of my resources I'm going to share with you is some Google data on how important it is to be representative of the different cultures, of the different countries, of the different families that we're targeting. The data that Google's suggesting is that the creative and the messaging that understands or represents those audiences is in fact performing better. I think this is something we know we have to do, especially in the United States. We're seeing a lot of people with the role of diversity in schools, diversity counselors and things like this. And we had an example years ago where the data led us to this, where we built a campaign with real students with SJR. Did the photo shoot, made sure we were representative of different age groups, different genders, different ethnic backgrounds, really trying to make sure that when we were targeting different audiences, that we had an option for them to see themselves in our creative, in our school, and analytically it worked. Conversation we need to start having now, because it's going to be a factor forever. We all know how our Canadian population is changing. I can't stress how important it is to, and maybe it does mean spending a little more on creative, but real students, real stories is an important thing today. It's going to be even more important as our country keeps growing and keeps changing. My last piece here, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you, bringing departments together. We talked about the customer journey. We talked about attribution modeling. All of these things are about tools to make decisions, okay? Identifying and understanding your audience, that's back to the very first thing that we did today, right? Is that everybody who's trying to make decisions based on marketing should, number one, put themselves in the shoes of your prospective families, of your target audience, okay? And then we want to make sure that we're thinking about the different objectives of our different departments and starting to work together, okay? What that means for marketing departments, if you're a marketing person watching this, is that if we're making decisions based on the customer journey, there's a lot of ads to be made. So there's room for other people's ideas is the change I'd like you to think about. Like, I know that 5 years ago and 8 years ago working with schools, you know, the gym teacher said that we had to talk about the sports programs more, and we said, oh yeah, maybe we'll get to it. There's room for that ad these days somewhere. If people are taking that behavior, if they're digging into your sports teams or your phys ed programs, there's room for that ad somewhere in the customer journey. So take on those ideas. Admissions, it's so important that we're working with our marketing departments and being consistent and working together with our communications once we've driven that marketing qualified lead and it's now a sales qualifying process, okay, that we're moving from admissions to enrollment, right? Or we're working from open house to filled out admission. We need to make sure that that messaging is tight, that we are being really strategic between marketing and admissions about once we're allowed into that inbox, how to take advantage of it, how to make sure that we're doing the right things for that customer journey. When it comes to heads of school or chairs, okay, it's time to stop looking at marketing analytics as reporting. Defend what we're doing in marketing. And I know that doesn't happen all the time. I know there's some very collaborative groups out here. But I'm going to share a resource. This is actually from our site about insight reporting. One of the most important things I think we do with our schools is we try to not throw numbers out there without saying, and therefore this is the opportunity, and therefore this is the challenge that we have to overcome. We do insight reporting rather than traditional reporting, as we say, because the goal of it is some education, as we talked about earlier, but it's also about, from the board to the head of school through marketing and admissions, everybody being able to make decisions based on data, not feeling like we have to defend what marketing or admissions doing, but rather let the data present opportunities, present challenges, and have, from the top down, an approach that says, don't be scared of the data. We're going to take it and we're going to adjust to it. We're going to make change um, based on that information that we're getting. Get to a place as an organization, as a school, where we can make decisions based on data. Summary. The world's gone digital. It's not going back. Okay? We have to learn from 2020. I think Grant had a great idea about this series here, and the case group had a great idea about this series, because we have to learn from this and make changes. The world is changing. We saw it from our consumers. We saw it through data today. Modernize your digital conversations. It's time to start putting some tools in place to make decisions. Customer journey, attribution modeling, and diversity representation. You know, it's not just COVID that has changed our world in the last year or two, right? Our changing population is starting to really push change as well. And then those key metrics to track, okay? Audience growth, email list growth. Stop talking about KPIs unless you can talk about the outcome. And the only way to do that is get that data right. And when we're sitting here a year from now, let's be talking about, we know if we got better year over year, next year and the year after that. Get your data right, make that change, and we're going to be in a better place learning from all this in this crazy, crazy year. One more time, I just want to thank Grant. I want to thank everybody who made it to the end of this video. I don't know how long it was, but I want to thank you for your time. From everybody at Metric, we're so proud to be involved in this series and with everything that we do with CASE and the schools that represent it. You're a bunch of great people, and I look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you in person really soon. Okay, take care, be safe.